know that voice, and you certainly know that song. That is Jewel. Her hit song, you remember this? You Were Meant for Me. She's a 4-time Grammy nominee who's known for her dedication to mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Were you aware of that? We were. And we are continuing our Wellness Week series with conversations on that very topic.
That's right. In her memoir, Never Broken, Jewel writes about her own mental health struggles, and she's also now an advocate, helping create the Inspiring Children's Foundation for At-Risk Youth, and more recently, Inner World, a virtual reality wellness center. Gayle and I talked with Jewel just yesterday, and here is our conversation. Welcome.
Welcome.
It's so great to have you here.
Yeah.
You know, as a guy in his room, age 14 in the 90s, listening to that music, I mean, I was having a mental health moment myself. It helped me get through it. It definitely did. But, you know, people who have not read your memoir, it's a bracing piece of writing. You had a very difficult upbringing, an abusive parent, but you were able to find your way out of it. One way was through music. How else were you able to find happiness and stability?
You know, I realized that as much as I had a genetic inheritance that would give me a predisposition to diabetes or heart disease, I had an emotional inheritance that would give me a predisposition to unhappiness or abuse or addiction. And so for me, what I realized is if I was going to move out at 15, I had to learn a new emotional language. I had to learn a new way of emotionally relating to the world so that I could have a different outcome than the one that my family had inherited and that basically I inherited as well. So I started to get really focused on behavior, and I'm not really sure why I had a gift for that, but at 15 I started writing and I started creating behavioral exercises for myself.
When we're growing up, nobody ever talked to me about mental health. I would imagine the same for you. No one talked to you about mental health, did they?
No, it wasn't a word.
It wasn't a word. It wasn't even a thing that we were thinking about. So how did you make the transition from I'm going to leave my house at 15 to figure out I need to do something with this, I need to help myself? What was your process in doing that?
It sounds silly, but I was raised on a ranch, and we had a rabbit that was raised with chickens because the chicken coop was a safe place. And this bunny thought it was a chicken, and it would peck at its food, and it would kind of waddle instead of hop.
Yeah.
And it scared me when I moved out because I was like, what if I'm a bunny that thinks it's a chicken because I was raised by chickens? How will I know my nature if my nurture was really bad? And so I realized what I needed to do. What made me think about it was an orange. I was eating an orange and there was the peel. And I was like, I spend all of my time thinking that I'm the peel. I'm actually what's in the center of it. And so I started to devise strategies to help me go down and in to where I thought my nature was and stop identifying so much with just my nurture. And you're talking about years and years of processes, but that was the first step.
You're dedicating yourself now to helping others. And you said we can all do this in terms of our mental health. But what is it that we can do? What do we need to know?
I think just knowing we're all in charge of our happiness. There's a lot that we can do to be in charge of our happiness. And that's my job, is to figure out how to be happy. And when I put my happiness as my #1 job and priority ahead of everything else, my life really started changing. And that means I almost turned down my record deal. I got discovered when I was homeless, and I almost turned it down.
Because?
Because I was afraid that, again, with my emotional baggage, God forbid somebody like me get famous, it's every movie you've ever seen about any celebrity. And I knew, again, that was going to be me statistically. So I had to have a strategy. And so it was a promise I made to myself that my #1 job would be to learn how to be happy. Was it a learnable skill?
Are about that.
It's what I was writing about.
Yeah.
And then my #2 job was to be a musician. And so I just never betrayed that promise. And that caused me to make very unconventional career decisions. I took years between albums, which people hate in my job, but it was the right thing for me, for my happiness.
Tell us about Inner World, the virtual reality platform you created, which when you were on the ranch and trying to get away and create behavioral exercises for yourself definitely did not exist. And now something like it does.
You know, what really bothered me is that, you know, for kids like me, moved out at 15, definitely an at-risk youth, there was no access to therapy, mental health tools, support systems. So what about kids like me? What about people like me that don't have access? We have to create better access and tools that work with therapy, but also without therapy, just in case you don't have access. So that's what I've been spending the last 22 years developing. And with Inner World, we finally just launched in November. It's a virtual community where you can have peer-to-peer led mental health tools.
You broke the chain in your own life, leaving the ranch, leaving your childhood, and now you're a parent yourself.
Now you have a
You've got an 11-year-old case.
A boy.
Yeah.
What's it been like raising him?
I love being a mom.
And
I
your
just
message to
feel-
him, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it's such a gift. And I really do think the healing of yourself is the healing of your children. It's the best gift you can give your child is to really be committed to your own growth and healing because it never stops.
So how do you explain this to him? What do you say to him to make sure his mental health is okay?
When my son was little, I would teach him about his feelings. I had a story called The Rainbow Dragon, where the dragon would turn different colors with different feelings, and it was the dragon's job to get his colors to change back to his normal color. So starting to teach emotional intelligence, when you get upset to stop, take a breath, then consider an action. So tools like that really help.
Amazing.
Yeah,
You can tell you're a writer.
Yeah, you
the way
can.
you talk, just the metaphor.
I know, I'm like
how you
Rainbow
visualize
Dragon.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you can see a special guided meditation on our CBS Mornings social media pages. And of course, if you or someone you know is seeking mental health resources, you can contact the National Alliance on Mental Illness helpline. That is 1-800-950-6264, or text helpline to 62640.